Hey moms, it's Laura Ollinger. Welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. Because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world.
So welcome not Aaron, that's my boyfriend, Eric. Eric Stenlake is in the house today. So welcome, Eric. Eric is a friend and colleague of mine. And so Eric, say hello to the Positively Healthy Moms.
Awesome. Good morning. Hi there, everybody. Great to have you guys with us on the show today. This is fabulous for you guys tuning in from around the world. You guys are a fabulous group, and it's an honor for me to be here. Thanks, Laura, so much for asking me to be here on the show.
Awesome. So, Eric, you are not a mom. And so you're going to have to earn your street cred here with the moms.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right. But I brought Eric in today because he is an expert in teenagers, parents, and family relationships. So I've got to comment that. So he could try.
Yes. The mother of all mothers right here, people. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah. Okay. You be you. You stay a dad, but you are certainly an expert in the family and teenager and parent relationship. So you'll have lots of expertise to bring to us today. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I thought we would kind of get into is, teenage stress and teenage emotions, because that tends to be one of the biggest sources of conflict within the relationship. Mm-hmm. And so what would be your first thought about talking about that topic?
Wow. Teenage emotions. I mean, really, teenagers are emotional. Teenagers got things happening, the blow-ups, the outbursts, if you will, the emotional triggers, things that are happening. Listen, if there's one thing that I've learned and my wife over the years is not to take things personally. Because when teenagers are having these meltdowns or emotional outbursts, even younger children, it tends to come from a different area. And what we've learned with our kids, our three kids, is to give them that safe place of which they can unload on us. Mm-hmm. And so they have that permission with us to go ahead and do that in a safe and constructive way.
Right.
And I think we've really learned how to navigate that when this emotion is coming out and things are happening, we don't take it personally. Because when we do, that's when we begin to have that tension. Because now there's pushback on whatever this emotion is, instead of coming to the place of a curious understanding mm-hmm. of what is happening, why that emotion is showing up and showing out in that instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like a lot of parents struggle with knowing how to give that space or provide the space. And realize that it is not a direct or personal attack. Even if it sounds like an attack, they might be saying like, you're terrible, blah, 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 all those things. Even those words are not meant to be personal. That is a reflection of what's going on inside the teenager's inner world and the need for independence. And so I saw this cool thing on Instagram this morning that was from Dr. Lisa D'Amour. She's an awesome teenage psychologist. And she talked about the analogy of teenagers being in a swimming pool and they're swimming around with their friends. They're having fun. They're having a good old time. But every once in a while, the play gets too rough. They start, swallowing water or getting under. And what they need to do is go to the side of the pool and grab on. And that's the analogy of the parents. Yeah. They need to catch their breath, slow down. And then as soon as they start to feel safe and comfortable again, they're ready to go back and go with their friends. Yeah. And so it can be almost like hurtful because the parent suddenly feels, oh, they're close to me. They want to talk to me. They want to be with me. But then the second they start to feel better, all of a sudden they're gone again. And so that also, that kind of, I don't think abandonment is the proper term, but just like kind of used and abused. Like they're in and they're out. Like, well, hey, what happened? I thought we were just having a great, moment here. And then all of a sudden, next minute you're gone. And so that can be another part of it. But I thought it would be fun today to do a conversation of just the very basics of, one of your specialties is thoughts, feelings, emotions, behaviors, results. So why don't you walk us through? I mean, it's not your thing, but it's a thing. And that's something that you specialize in kind of explaining and teaching.
Sure.
Can you give us your lesson on that today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, this is going to come back to that immediate awareness. And this is something that I have built up over time, right? Because I could tell you, I wasn't always in this space of understanding of why and where these emotions are coming from. And so I would push back because, listen, I'm the parent. You can't talk to me this way. You can't do this way. You can't say this. You can't do this. And I've learned over the years, right, to really pull apart that emotional tension and focus in this middle area. That is the critical area. That is the pause. And when I've learned to pause myself and now come into this situation and say, okay, what's going on? It's not about me. That emotional overload is not about me. It's about them and their day. So let me give you an example. When the kids are at school all day, they are giving emotionally, which is really, really tough sometimes because kids at school, they're so worried and so concerned about how they look, how they dress, what they say, who they're hanging out with. And God forbid they do one little thing that's going to get posted on social media or going to have them get made fun of. And so they're walking on eggshells and they don't have a chance to relax. Right. And so then they come home and, hey, how was your day? Right. The first thing that typically comes out of parents' mouth. Yeah. Right. And then boom, here comes this verbal explosion. Or they walk in the house and there was a time where we should say, okay, here's some chores to do this afternoon. Chores? Oh, are you kidding me? Boom. And then an explosion there. So what I've learned over the years, and parents, I'm going to really encourage you guys to do this, is when your kids come back into the home or into the car or they're leaving, allow them that space to just kind of decompress for a while.
Totally.
Right. It's typically that we say, how was your day? How was your classes? How was the teachers? How are your grades? And we start pumping them through all the questions of which they don't want to answer at this given point in time. Right. And I know I made that mistake going online. Oh my gosh, what do all these zeros mean? Well, it just means the teacher hasn't inputted the grades yet. So the assignments are done. They're just not inputted yet. And so when you start going into those questions, they will take it as an attack on their character. Excuse me, an attack on their character rather than me coming from that place of support. Yeah. And so in that questioning, maybe you could come up with something like, gosh, today's a beautiful day. Wasn't it a beautiful day today? Gosh, the sun feels so good. Were you able to enjoy the sun at all today and be outside? Did you eat lunch outside? Oh my gosh, what an amazing day. Oh, I had this great thing that happened to me today. What great thing happened to you today? And change that focus of questioning to not be in the generalization of, really looking at, the normal questions that we ask as parents, but really just exploring a different space of curiosity.
Right. And there's just so many other ways they could take that as well. It's kind of annoying, right, to get asked the same questions every day. Right. It's like if you were, and I know from my own experience, every day I'm busy, I'm stressful, I'm running around, blah, 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 I'm doing a million things. And if somebody starts like at the end of the day, when I'm tired and I'm worn out and I just want to recharge or relax, I don't want to be asked all those questions. So to just have some sensitivity about like what they've experienced for their day. And then B, the other opportunity is parents get frustrated when they do get the short answers, like fine, good, blah, 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 right? And so then that creates more tension because then the parent is digging more, and it just becomes harassing and annoying. And then they go to their room and they slam the door, and then the parent's like, what happened? What did I do? It's like, maybe they just need a break. They just need a chill time, right? But I love the way you phrase your questions, because they sound so much less like an interrogation also, because they just kind of shift the mood, right? And then it leaves the teenager free to answer however they want. You say it's a beautiful day. How was your day? Or did you agree? Do you think it was a beautiful day? They can say, yeah, nope. They can disagree with you. They can say, no, it was cloudy. But just let them say whatever they want to say, right? And just kind of give them that freedom and space, and then don't take whatever that response is. You just don't take it personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now let's go into part B on that, if you will, or part 2, because there's purpose and intent behind the questions that I ask, because then the context clues are going to flow. If I'm asking those questions that are going to get the Neanderthal responses, yeah, sure, okay, from the kids, right? The one word or one letter responses, I ask those questions purposefully to keep them open-ended for a response.
Right.
And in that response, then, if I say it was a beautiful day today, and they come back and go, no, it was cloudy, it was a horrible day, it was gosh, it sounds like you're really, gosh, it sounds like you had a tough day, or wow, it sounds like you weren't able to enjoy the sun so much. Is everything okay? Right. And then being able to really ask those questions in a way that keep the door of communication open, as opposed to just slamming it, have a door slammer, if you will, of, well, that's just you just need to change your attitude. You just need to think positively, okay?
Yeah.
Sweetie, just think positively and the whole world will be great. No, it doesn't work like that.
Moms don't talk like that. Terrible impersonation. Come on, get it right.
Honestly, that is the most frustrating thing that I've learned over the years to say to my kids. Oh, well, if you just think positively, everything's going to be fine. Right. No, it's not. It's not in that world. Yeah. With teens and tweens and teens, if you will. So getting them to really open up about that, and then asking some leading questions, some curious questions. Well, if they're saying, well, it was a horrible day. Well, how does that make you feel? Well, I don't like having horrible. No kidding. That really is tough when you've had a hard day. Is there anything maybe you want to share about that? No. Okay, cool. Hey, no problem. But just know that if there is, you're welcome. I'd love to, sit down and chat with you on that. So again, still keeping that door of communication open, but giving them that space to shift. Right. And then I will always intentionally go back maybe later that day and just say, hey, is there anything you wanted to talk about from before? Because it sounded like maybe you were upset coming out of school today, or is everything cool? Nah, everything's cool. I talked to my friend, worked it out. So now that tells me what? They had something happen at school today of which they worked out, and they didn't need me for that. And that's fine. That's fabulous. Because they're gaining that independence. They're gaining those social skills. They're gaining the ability to work through those situations. And knowing that they have somebody there for support sometimes is all they need. And so learning those valuable life skills on how to navigate through that really is beautiful.
Right. Yeah. And we have that impulse as parents to fix things.
Yep.
So, that's why we want to dig and say, what's going on? What happened? What are you going to do about it? Right. It's like, you give them that space and then allow them to resolve it on their own. But I wanted to add a little bit more kind of depth to that part about really listening and validating, which is, you said, I had a rough day, and then, you say, how do you feel about that? And a lot of times teenagers can't name the emotion.
Yep.
So they might say, well, it sucked. And it's like, that's not really truly a feeling word. It's a descriptive word of how they're feeling. Yep. And so what would be helpful for the parent is to then to give them that language and to validate that feeling. And so you might say, wow, you must have had a really stressful or frustrating day, whatever it is that you're sensing, or you must have felt really aggravated by that teacher, or you must have felt really annoyed by your friends who were doing that, right? And give them those feeling words, because then they can, they say you have to feel it to heal it, or you have to name it to tame it. And so in order to then name that emotion or help them, and because then if you're wrong, they can say, no, I wasn't frustrated. I was angry, right? Like then they can correct you, but kind of like give a little, rough draft on what you think it is. And then that's validating to them. And then chances are you're probably right. You hit the nail right on the head. And that immediately just like calms that feeling, right? It's like, yes, that's how I feel. Right? There's nothing more frustrating in this world when then you're trying to explain something to somebody and they just don't get it. They don't understand. And you're like, oh my gosh. And so that's why, that parent-team relationship also has conflict, right? Because the parents don't get it. So to kind of help them with that, use those validating words, use the feeling words, and just to really empathize. And the thing is, you don't even have to agree, right? Like maybe you have great respect for their English teacher, but they think their English teacher sucks. So you say, I can understand how you would feel frustrated with your English teacher because they changed the due date of your assignment. I can understand that, right? Instead of saying, well, your teacher is right about that. Like don't take the teacher's side. Take the kid's side, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And the kids are great. They'll tell you if you're on the right track or not. And they have no problem telling you that, which actually is a good thing, right? So moms, if you have your children that are frustrated and they're like, no, mom, oh my gosh, right? Because I don't know if you have teenagers that sound like that, because I sure do. And so now they're feeling that frustration, and I know I'm not on the right track. So that is a message that I receive that I take as, oh, thank God. Now I know a direction to go from that, rather than like, don't use that tone with me. Remember that emotional part of that. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about them. And allowing them that space and place of safety to really begin expressing that. And I love that we went into that the part about, well, is it like this or more like this? Giving them that options to decide. Is it because there was something with your teachers, or was it something with some kids at school? That school is tough at this age. I don't know how you're even able to do it. Like, this is oh my gosh, 5th grade is, wow, that's tough. First of all, congratulations on making it through another day, because that could be really tough sometimes at school, right? So just having those honest, open conversations, whether they continue or whether your kid puts it on hold for a while, don't take offense to either way of that. I think the biggest shift that I made as a parent was moving out of that role of being that parent, if you will, in what the norm of the parenting is, and more into that coach, if you will, or support structure, or support person. And I know that sounds weird, like, yeah, I'm still going to be the parent. Absolutely. But it's more of getting them to make those decisions and supporting them in that, and giving ideas and giving suggestions along the way, and asking for permission to give that. Well, so okay, so this has happened with your teacher. Is this something that's happened before? Is this something new? Is this something that they typically you'll see in the classroom? Would you like some suggestions on how to, some things that maybe you could say or do in that situation, or do you feel like you got it handled? Well, I guess, yeah, okay.
And that was actually where I was going to head with this conversation, is the coach approach to parenting.
Yeah.
So I do want to get into that, but before we do that, there was one other thing that, as you were talking, I always can use my own kids as an example, like you do as well. And
sure.
having all these conversations with the kids, it's funny because it depends on the kid's personality.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is they all have their own, ways, times of day that they are ready to open up. So for example, my oldest daughter, the second she gets in the car, she's right. She's ready to spill it. She just like all out. She's just like verbal vomit of every part of her day. So she's easy one because I always know exactly what's happening. Or even she'll text me from school and say, oh my gosh, this happened or this happened, right? I am very up to date on her. My second child, who's my oldest boy, he's the more closed off one. He's a little bit more difficult to reach. And so I find I have to work a little bit harder to like get the information or to figure out how I can support him. And then my next one is another boy. Here's what I found. It's when I'm doing the dishes in the evening, he suddenly just decides he's ready. And it's kind of like after dinner and I was cleaning up and he'll just stay at the table and he'll just start talking. It could be about sports. It could be about school. It could be about his friends. And I'm like, I kind of love this. So I just pretend like I'm of course really excited that I'm like, oh yeah, he's doing it. But I don't make it a big deal. I'm like, oh yeah, buddy, I totally get it, that blah, blah. And then my youngest, we have this kind of tradition where we go for walks. And December. So we walk at night and we get to see all the Christmas lights in the neighborhood. But that's her time. And she always says, I feel so much better. Yeah. And I love that because she kind of just like unloads on me, but she'll only really do it during that time. It's harder to get her to open up at other times of the day, but that's her time. So it's every kid has their own way of doing it. So what's been your experience as far as your kids or just other people's kids with that?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. There's some of my kids will just open up, and then the other one is forget about it. You're lucky if you get a response with the letter K, that things are all right. And the time of day matters. Situations matter. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from school? Are they coming from a job, a part-time job? Are they coming from hanging out with their friends? Depending upon where your kids' ages are, even the younger ones, if there's, a group of kids that go hang out, there's so many dynamics that happen within that group of the kids hanging out at somebody's house, or they go to the mall or whatever the case might be, that when they come back, how have they acted or reacted in those situations to, again, in those social settings. It's so much pressure on kids these days in the social settings. And you're looking at the time of day. I say all three of my kids are the same way. Some of them are completely non-functioning in the morning. And some of them are, the night owls. And they'll even say to me, Dad, when you going to bed? Because we're just waking up into life. Dad, you go to bed, so we watch a movie, are doing this, yeah. And it's like, no, go do you, boo. Go have your time, do whatever you need to do, right? This is your life. You manage yourself within the constructs of time in that 24-hour period, taking care of what you need to. Yeah. And what can I do to support them in their different times of when they're wanting to communicate, when they're not wanting to communicate? I know some of them come in from work and they don't want to say a word. They need that decompressed time. They need that time just to unwind for a little while. And I'll tell you what, moms, you guys know this too, right? Those of you that are working or volunteering or you're out and about, you come back to the home, there is that time of which you need your decompressed time.
Yes.
Right. And so part of what I do in my role is I go into schools all over the United States and I deliver professional development trainings for teachers in school and leadership and culture development within the school, within the classroom, the learning groups and things of that nature. And this is a topic that comes up quite often, of which we talk about that decompressed time. And I'm going to encourage you moms to find those times of which you need to step back and remove yourself from the family and have that alone time just for a little bit to decompress for yourselves.
Totally.
I've had some things over there. I know we're moving off of the kid thing, but this is really, really important for you moms, is to have that time. I've worked with teachers of which they say, I'm going to come in the door, I'm going to say hi to everybody, and we have set the intention in the family that when mom comes in, nobody messes with mom for half an hour. Not, I need this, I'm starving, I need this, because you walk in the door and the first thing they say is what? What's for
Dinner.
Right? Absolutely. I'm gonna give you what's for dinner. I got something right here, a knuckle sandwich. You want that, and having that time just to say, listen, I'm gonna go into my room, I'm gonna shut the door, and I'm just gonna have some alone time to decompress.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm gonna change, maybe I'm gonna refresh a little bit. And then when I come out, I'm going to be ready to then engage in with the family and do. So as it's important for the kids, so it's important for you too, moms, is to have that time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's later at night. You're like, listen, this is my read time.
Yeah.
And so my kids are seeing me reading. They're not going to come up and ask me, all these questions, because they see me, stimulating my brain, and I'm reading something that is good. And so anyway, I wanted to throw that in there because it's kind of a lead from when the kids need to have that decompressed time, so we as the adults do.
I think that is such a great point, and I'm so glad you brought that up. And so how would you present that to your family in a manner that they would respect your wishes on that?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I want to point out here is in that alone time, we want to respect the spaces of all the kids, all the members of the family. Everybody will come to that place of which they want that and need that alone time. And so for us in our house, it's very easy. We've gotten to that place where I need a few minutes. And everybody's like, cool. It's a no big deal now because we've practiced that. It's become a habit in our house, right? If the kids come in from school and they've had that frustrating day, and my son says, I need a few minutes, Dad. Hey, cool, no worries. What are you gonna do? You're gonna play some video games? You're gonna take a nap? What are you gonna do? And so then and we're keeping that conversation going, and it's curious. I'm gonna get online for a little bit. Okay, no problem. Do you want me to come connect with you in 30, 45 minutes? So because that could easily turn into 3 hours or 4 hours of video game playing, right? Yeah. Set me a timer, for 45 minutes. Cool, no problem. Now it's the place where they set their own timer, and I love that because they're in tune with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I also like the idea of, so my kids, of course, they ask that, what's for, dinner? I love that. It felt like a game show when you asked that question.
Right?
I found lately, it's kind of fun to tell them in the morning when they're going to school. I don't know why. It's just because I like them to know what the day is going to be like. And so I'll say, okay, guys, this is what's on the schedule for today. I have this client at this time. You have basketball at this time. And for dinner, we're having blank. Right. So that way they kind of know what the day is. And so when they come home, somehow it's just like they already know, they know what's expected. And it's funny because how our kids who are, little itty bitties, toddlers, they thrive on that routine and that predictability. I found that teenagers are very much the same. They kind of do well when they know what to expect, and it kind of just makes their day easier. I mean, I know I would kind of want to know too, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause my conversation with Eric Stenlake. If you'd like to hear more, listen to my next episode. Thank you for listening to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast, because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.